I was going to discuss leading up to it until about 20 minutes ago when this news broke about where does Cam Newton end up? Because now, again, we saw Jameis sign a one-year deal, $1.1 million, by the way. He signed for peanuts. And he was basically just happy to get a deal as he signed with the Saints. What does that mean for Cam Newton? And now also, what does that mean for Andy Dalton? Because you look around, there is no starting job that's open right now. And again, Jameis Winston saw that, and now that's why he signed to be a backup in New Orleans. But you look around the league, there's even not many backup spots. We'll get into that in a second, but I think it's very smart also with what Jameis did, signing that deal. I want to get at him for just a quick second here. Because Jameis Winston, he's a reclamation project. He needs basically a year to kind of get his thoughts together, see how a consummate pro does it in Drew Brees, and almost take the route of Teddy Bridgewater, which worked out great. Now, obviously, Teddy Bridgewater is a little different because injuries and that gruesome injury he had in Minnesota was what derailed his career. He goes down to New Orleans, backs up Drew Brees for 2 years, plays well when he's called upon, and he ends up signing us the 3-year, $63 million deal with the Panthers. I think Jameis Winston, who has the talent, and again, the biggest question mark for him is decision-making. I think he can, kind of go the same way as Teddy Bridgewater and reassess the QB market next year when teams like the Bears, who already said they're not going to give Mitchell Trubisky a fifth-year option, I think could be looking for a new guy or could be looking for a guy. They have already, I know they traded for Nick Foles. I don't trust Nick Foles. I really don't. And Jameis Winston has 10 times the talent that Nick Foles does. So this could be a year where where Jameis gets things right, learns from a pro, gets in that offense with Sean Payton, which you see a lot of quarterbacks have success in, and then resurface next year, either maybe to have that Saints job. Who knows? I don't think Drew Brees is going to come back after this year. I think this is the final hurrah. So that'll be a job that's open. But smart for Jameis, and now it's going to be, Cam Newton and Andy Dalton have to follow the same suit that Jameis Winston did. Put your pride aside. I'm sure they both believe that they could be starting quarterbacks. It's time to follow the same path, because right now, going the backup route in 2020 is the best way they could become a starter again in 2021. So I had, and we'll discuss this with Andy Dalton too, but I had 4 teams lined up for Cam Newton I think he would fit perfectly in. We can go for a year, sit behind the starter, get healthy, first of all. That's his biggest question mark. Get healthy again. And maybe, if called upon, play well and garner up some interest, because right now he's getting 0 interest. And so I had 4 teams. One of them is the Steelers. You look at the Steelers, their backup quarterbacks stink. Duck Hodges, Mason Rudolph, they played the entire year last year, essentially. Ben played, I think a game and a half. Didn't last too long. And the reason why this would be smart I think this would be a good fit for Andy Dalton too, but also Cam Newton, is because Big Ben doesn't mentor young quarterbacks. He actually hates young quarterbacks. When Mason Rudolph was drafted, he basically said, I don't know why they drafted this quarterback. He's going to basically have to learn on his own. I was hoping to get a weapon. He's not going to be all of a sudden happy-go-lucky and teach this young quarterback who's trying to take his job how to succeed in the NFL. So this is a chance where, obviously, Ben Roethlisberger doesn't stay healthy too often. He's played 1 full season in the last 5 years. So he's going to get dinged up. He's going to miss some games. Coming off that elbow injury, we have no clue how long his body's going to last. You go to Pittsburgh, let your body heal a little bit, and guess what? If Big Ben gets hurt, which he's done, again, for the last 5 years, he hasn't played a full season, you can get on the field for a game, 2, maybe an extended stretch, and try to get your career back on the right track. I think that'd be great for both Andy Dalton and Cam Newton. Another team, a team that knows the backup route well, the Tennessee Titans. This is why I love it for Cam Newton especially, because the Titans run a physical offense that is catered on the run game and play action, which fits into Cam Newton's needs perfectly. The play action pass in Tennessee is very effective. They have Derrick Henry on the franchise tag, so they're going to run the ball and run it a lot. You saw it last year. That's how they made it to the AFC title game. Play physical defense and run the ball down your throat. So I think that will benefit Cam the most because he's not being put in harm's way. He's being able to pass off of the play action game, which I think is very beneficial for him. And not to mention, too, the Titans and Ryan Tannehill know the backup route very well. Ryan Tannehill was traded for last year to back up Marcus Mariota. Marcus Mariota struggles. Ryan Tannehill comes in, shot of life into that Titans offense, and then again they make a run to the AFC title game. Do I trust Ryan Tannehill long term? I do not. I thought it was the wrong move for the Titans to give Tannehill an extension. I would have went the Tom Brady route personally. But now, if you bring in Cam Newton, even for just a year, you have insurance that in case Ryan Tannehill was a flash in the pan, a one-hit wonder, or injured, because let's not forget in Miami, he couldn't even stay on the field. He got hurt every year. He can be a guy you can bring in and at least continue to run your offense, and the offense fits what Cam does well and really what Cam needs. He can't be running around behind a bad offensive line, taking massive hits. He needs a physical offense that runs the ball first, and he can use that play-action game effectively going forward and help save him, hopefully, some hits on his body, because God knows we need that. I think the Titans would be a very perfect fit for Cam Newton, especially. How about the Vikings, too, going to the NFC? There's another team that's dedicated to running the ball first, using the play-action game. Obviously, Kirk Cousins is a starter. There's no controversy there. So bring Cam Newton, I don't think that rocks the boat as much as you would if you bring Cam Newton in for a young team. Because that's another thing, too. Right? A lot of people want to speculate that, Cam Newton should go to the Patriots. Look at their quarterback situation. Jarrett Stidham stinks. He'd be great for the Patriots. He's still really good. You're not bringing in Cam Newton if you have a young quarterback you're trying to figure out and trying to develop. You're not bringing Cam Newton into New York, either the Jets or the Giants. You're not bringing Cam Newton into the Browns. You're not bringing Cam Newton into any situation where a young quarterback is either trying to figure it out or has a stranglehold on the team. Because the last thing you want to do is bring a distraction in. That's the one thing we don't know about Cam. How will he do when the limelight's not on him, when he is not the guy? He was the guy his entire career in Carolina. Now, wherever he goes, he's going to be the backup, which means he's not going to do his press conferences, which means if he still tries to dress up all fancy, guess what? No one's talking to him after the game. I think that it's better to bring in Cam to a veteran-laden team, especially a veteran quarterback room, where they can handle the distraction and there won't be much controversy. Because God knows if you bring him into New York with the Jets, let's say, in a big year for Sam Darnold, and Sam Darnold struggles, all you're going to be hearing about is questions about, should Cam Newton play? Let's get Cam Newton in there. That's not how exactly you build confidence for a young quarterback that you still hope could be your franchise guy. So the Vikings think could be another good fit, because you look at who they have now. They have Sean Mannion, Jake Browning. Yuck. You have an established veteran guy in Kirk Cousins there who has a stranglehold on the job, but also the offense fits Cam's needs. So I think that would be a very solid place to bring in Cam. Not to mention, too, all four of these teams, Steelers, Titans, Vikings, and I'm about to talk about the Seahawks in a moment, you need a reason to bring Cam in, right? If you're going to be a bad team, let's say like the Jaguars, there's no reason to bring Cam in because you're not trying to win. You're trying to figure out what you have in your young quarterback. He's a great insurance policy for these teams that are built to win a Super Bowl or trying to win a Super Bowl. You bring him in as an insurance policy to where if your starter gets hurt, your season's not over. If Kirk Cousins goes down, their season's over. Jake Browning or Sean Mannion aren't coming in and leading the Vikings to the playoffs. If Russell Wilson gets hurt, which we'll talk about the Seahawks here, but first of all, there's zero backup on their depth chart. So whoever they bring in is not going to lead the Seahawks to the playoffs. But if you bring Cam Newton in to Seattle, obviously Russell Wilson is the unquestioned starter. We have a heavy run scheme with a solid offensive line that's improving. And you look at his skill set, Russell Wilson is a similar, smaller Cam Newton. Both mobile, both make plays with their feet. Russell does a way better job of avoiding hits and not taking abuse. But it's a similar offense. It's a similar scheme. And again, not to mention, when it's run first and you're using the play action to help the quarterback, it is less abuse that Cam Newton has to take, and it'll open up the throwing lanes better for him to make plays and have success. So you're not bringing Cam in to mentor young quarterbacks. I would be nervous that how that dynamic would work if you'd actually try to help the young quarterback as much as trying to take his job. So all four of these teams I laid out, the Seahawks, the Vikings, the Titans, and the Steelers, I think are four spots that would be perfect, that are trying to make the playoffs, that the starter, for the most part, has some injury concerns, especially with the Steelers and the Titans. All four fit a pretty good offense that Cam could come in and adapt and play well under. And all four are trying to win the Super Bowl. All four are trying to make a run. You're bringing him in as the insurance policy, as your Nick Foles to Carson Wentz. You're not bringing him into a young quarterback room to have him mentor your next guy. You're not bringing him in to try to mentor Gardner Minshew and take it to the next level. You're not bringing him in to cause drama and cause question marks about the young starting quarterback if his job is secure, and have him answer questions every bad game of if he's looking over his shoulder at Cam Newton. There's only a select amount of teams that could really afford to bring Cam Newton in, not have it be a distraction, and have it end up turning out well. I think it's the Steelers, the Titans, the Vikings, and the Seahawks. Now, Andy Dalton, on the other hand, I think he has more suitors. I think he'd be better fit to be a backup quarterback, and I think teams would be more adept at doing that. I think a team like the Jaguars would be interesting. You have Gardner Minshew. I think it'd be smart to bring in a veteran quarterback to at least show Gardner Minshew the ropes and at least allow him to have some wisdom and learn off of. I don't think that would work with Cam Newton. I think it would work well with Andy Dalton. And before we get any further, I want to at least try to squash this thought. Andy Dalton, I already said with Cam Newton, Andy Dalton is not going to the Patriots. He's not. I'm sorry, he's not going. I know everyone, anytime there's a free agent quarterback available, they point to the Patriots. Man, Bill Belichick, there's no way he's going to play with Jarrett Stidham. They need a quarterback. People were freaking out that they didn't draft a quarterback in the draft. Bill Belichick is set on his quarterback position. We told you this earlier. When Tom Brady left, they already had his replacement in the wings. Jarrett Stidham is going to be the guy this year. They brought in Brian Hoyer as an insurance plan and someone to mentor Jarrett Stidham. They didn't bring in Brian Hoyer just because. They brought him in because he knew the system. He could help coach Jarrett Stidham. And God forbid, if Jarrett Stidham busts, they could put Brian Hoyer in and trust that he'll at least be competent with the offense and not just have it be, a disaster. You have to see what you have. They drafted him for a reason. This is the year, and Bill Belichick, I think, knows this. This is the year you see what you have. If Jarrett Stidham's the guy, it works out fine. You have your franchise guy for the next 10 or 15 years. If he's not, fine, you hit the reset button. Because guess what? Whether it's Andy Dalton, whether it's Cam Newton, whether it's Jameis Winston, whether it's a quarterback in the draft, a lot of these guys are going to hit the free agent market next year. Andy Dalton is not signing a 2 or 3 year deal. Cam Newton is not signing a 2 or 3 year deal. Bill Belichick knows he can get these guys later on. You have to see what you have with Jarrett Stidham. This is the perfect opportunity to see in a guy you drafted if he can play or not. And not to mention, you're not going to bring in Andy Dalton and then who are you going to cut? You're not cutting Brian Hoyer because you need someone who knows the offense, especially in an offseason that is severely limited. You're not going to bring in a young quarterback who essentially is going to be a rookie this year, and Jarrett Stidham barely saw the field last year. You're not going to bring in a guy who doesn't know the offense as a veteran to come in and mentor him and be ready. Because guess what? That veteran's playing catch-up. It's not a coincidence they brought Brian Hoyer in. Brian Hoyer is the insurance policy, is a security blanket in case Jarrett Stidham isn't what they thought he was. So you need that there at all times, especially in an offseason that's weird and different than any other offseason we've ever seen in the NFL. The Patriots are set at what they have. It's going to be Jarrett Stidham, the starter. It's going to be Brian Hoyer, the backup. Andy Dalton's not going there in 2020. Cam Newton is not going there in 2020. No other quarterback is going to New England in 2020. 2021 might be a different story. Don't get me wrong. Again, I think this is a recalibration this year for Bill Belichick in New England. I said they'll have a down year. I think they will. Now, a down year for them could be 7-9 or 8-8. But it's not going to be 10-6 or 11-5 like they've used to. And they've gone essentially what feels like, every year for 2 decades. It could be, bumpy. It could be a big learning curve. But one way or another, Bill Belichick's going to answer a quarterback. And he's either going to have to, readjust and go get someone next year, or he's going to roll with Jarrett Stidham. And this is the year to figure it out. I think Bill Belichick will do that. So before we go any further, because I already see it on Twitter, the rumors, this is a perfect Patriots guy. He's not going to the Patriots. I would be shocked if he goes to the Patriots. So get your thoughts, where do you think Andy Dalton or Cam Newton should end up? I mean, there's not a lot of homes for these players. I still think both can play. Cam Newton, obviously, the big question mark we have with him is his health. Will he be healthy enough to actually, play and get to the level that he was back in Carolina when his MVP year in 2015 or even before that? The last few years has been tough for Cam to stay on the field, and that's what's led to his lack of play.